Let's overanalyze all 63 new GTA 6 screenshots, because oh my, there are hundreds of details you've missed. We'll start with the images from the controversial Ultimate Edition, and to finish, we'll go through the vintage Vice City pack, which is what you'll get with the standard pre-order of the game. But what makes this different is I can guarantee you'll learn something new, as I've done this multiple times with other GTA 6 material. So without further ado, let's freaking dive in. Starting off with the first screenshot where we have Jason looking like TGG, and a recurring theme you'll notice throughout this is that the character customization is unbelievable, and I will try my very best to not glaze Rockstar throughout this entire thing. Anyway, as you can see, the hair is phenomenal, Lucia's got some brilliant braids, and of course Jason's kitted out with the luscious locks. In addition to that, Lucia's wearing the exact same earrings, as you may have noticed multiple times by now. Although interestingly, she hasn't got her famous necklace on in this shot. Besides that, we've got a very blurry helicopter on the right hand side, and this really contrasts from the clarity of Jason and Lucia, and it's just stunning. It looks like an actual photograph taken in real life, with that proper depth of field. I'm sure you noticed the flamingo too. Next up we have a wider shot, again with Jason and Lucia featuring the exact same outfits, as well as this nice creamy green car, which I believe is the Grotty Stinger GT, and you can get a much clearer view of this from the website video. On top of this, written on the building behind Jason, I believe is the word Sahara. If you didn't know, Sahara is the GTA 6 parody version of Amazon. Regardless, it's pretty evident how similar this looks to the actual Amazon logo. And if you want to know where this is on the map, the shot's actually taken on Catalan Key, looking towards inner Vice City, and I would say it's safe to assume the website video is in around the same place. But lastly, Lucia is rocking the new Hawk revolver, which in my opinion looks pretty slick in that black decal, and we'll talk more about decals in a little bit. Moving on, we have this shot from Electric Fang Tattoo, located in Stockyard, which is a neighbourhood in Vice City. Both motorbikes are kitted out with Leonida plates. However, we will see some Gloriana ones later on, but is it teasing a second state or not? I'm not too sure. Although with the license plates, I have to say I really like the customization here. To my knowledge, in GTA 5 there was only about 4 or 5 different plates that you could have. So I'm super hyped to be able to make them different colours and put different symbols on them and stuff like that. Just behind the motorcycles, the poster reads, "Your fate is in our hands, you can trust us." On the left side, of course, we've got the neon sign, but just below that, the actual cable powering it is clipped onto the wall using cable clips, as well as plastic conduit feeding into the box to protect the cable. The attention to detail is incredible. Naturally, I couldn't not mention the reflection in the door, and it looks as though arcade games are returning from GTA 5. Lastly, the ground looks like it's got a little crater in it and it's been deformed, which is exactly the type of thing we've seen detailed in the graphics patent, and I'm excited to see how else this is used in GTA 6. Following on from that, we're inside the shop now, with Lucia sporting an interesting look. Personally, I wouldn't customise her to look like this, but each to their own. And that is a new, more modern iFruit phone. Besides that, the shoe brand is Eris, which has actually been in the game since GTA 3. I have to say though, I'm not entirely sure what's going on with the pixels on the bottom of the chair. Is that a mistake or just ink that's dripped down? However, the bottom left of this image really sells you on the realism, with cling film that's obviously applied to tattoos once they're finished, as well as what I'm assuming is powder-free gloves. It says excellent fit for comfort, sensitivity and safety, high anti-tear properties, and then it says cuff for tear resistance, single use only. But I'm not sure what the word before cuff says. I'm sure you'll know if you're a tattoo artist, so leave it in the comments. Now we have a different angle again from the same location. Of course, we're positioned just to the right of the first shot, and chronologically speaking, it looks like this was taken after the previous one, because Lucia's tattoo looks complete here. Of course, in the centre we have the easily recognisable Jason. I think we all know about the reflections in sunglasses by now, but it's interesting how his memorable Marauder's tattoo looks a lot more faded and worn compared to the newer ones, which are closer to the camera. And I guess this is an actual mechanic in the game, because these tattoos haven't fully dried yet. Now to finish off with the tattoo shop, Jason's got this huge tattoo on his back. Allegedly, the term finis is Latin and it means the end or finish. And this little Easter egg really scares me. Maybe this is foreshadowing what happens to Jason and Lucia in the end, going out in typical Bonnie and Clyde style fashion. Up next, it appears Jason's had a shave, and I really like the detail of the back of his cap being breathable and perforated. Obviously, we've got a little boat in the bottom left, and it seems as though we're on the outskirts of Vice City, potentially not far from the Grass Rivers, as indicated by the colour of the water. If you didn't know, this is Macca the Gator, which is inspired by Miami Vice, where there's an alligator named Elvis, and it's cool to see it wearing the iconic Tommy Vercetti shirt. But adding on to that, on Lucia's shirt, what piqued my interest was this little blob that looks to be holding a cigar. I'm not sure why, but this instantly reminded me of Big Smoke. But maybe it's something to do with Booby Ike, because there's pretty similar jewellery. Here we can see the lovely 1995 grotty cheetah posed outside the Pegassi residences, and this is the South Tower one. It looks like Rockstar's using parallax roads in this game, and it's amazing to see how the water's interacting with it, with the road right in front of the car being slightly wet in comparison to the rest of it. And that brings me on to the water particulates along the windscreen and bonnet of the car, which are most likely simulated using Rockstar's new patented technology, as they've made one to animate sparse fluids. However, if that wasn't enough, we've got another screenshot of the car. Notably, Rockstar really showed off the ray tracing with these screenshots, with that lens flare from the headlight, and oh my god, I've just seen that curved reflection in the bonnet. Sorry, I should say hood, but that curved palm tree is amazing. Like, how is this even possible? Despite that, on the left hand side, we have a sign dictating the speed limit, which is 10 miles per hour, and it sort of looks like there's a boat positioned behind the palm trees in the distance. However, this shot does make me wonder if we can have dip beam and full beam to blind oncoming traffic when we feel like it, just like in real life. Not much to say here, apart from the fact that there's material textures on the blinkers and brake lights, and that based on this license plate, Leonida is nicknamed the Good Time State. And as you'll notice with this concluding image, the car interiors are still incredibly detailed, just like we saw in the 2022 leaks. There's speakers in the door and in the footwell. The steering wheel looks like it's got real leather, but on the left of the driver's seat, that may be the lever to adjust the seat positioning to compensate for small and large characters. Additionally, in the background, we've got the Grand Hotel, and similarly, we have another hotel on the left. Although I can't make out the full word, the letters say AKI. I'm just gonna guess and say it's called the Akio Hotel. As shown here, we have the Little Morgan revolver, which pairs with the Hawk revolver mentioned earlier, and it's probable this is a reference to Arthur Morgan. And this is a returning weapon from the original GTA Vice City called the Equalizer. And you can see the weapons together in this shot here, with clear engravings on the guns for Jason Duval and Lucia Caminos. Although I'm not sure how smart this is during an actual robbery. I mean, if they lose the gun, it's pretty obvious who it belongs to. But also, we have these number engravings, and an incredible hidden detail with these. They're actually the release dates for the original GTA Vice City and Vice City stories, on the 29th of October 2002, and the 31st of October 2006. On the left we have a wad of cash, but built into it is actually a die pack. It's manufactured by the in-game company Bobcat, and it reads, die pack handle with care, explosive. And I'm speculating the little red square indicates the colour of it. So I'm intrigued to see how this ties into gameplay. I'm not entirely sure how these work in real life, but is it possible to disable it and prevent ourselves and all the other cash being covered in red dye? Finally, we're presented with a box of Stronghold ammunition, manufactured in the USA, approved by ARM, which I believe is the American Rifle membership. Now we get a look at One-Eyed Willie's mod shop, which is another thing on the list that's locked behind the Ultimate Edition. The tyres read Boulder All-Terrain, and supposedly the name Boulder is a god in Norse mythology known for being indestructible, which is clearly the main purpose of these tyres. On top of that, this brand is a Canis, which is the same brand as Trevor's truck in GTA 5, of course modelled on Jeep in real life, with this car in particular being modelled off the Jeep Gladiator. What does intrigue me though is the towing equipment on the front of the truck. Can we pull other vehicles out of deep mud? Or rip ATMs off the wall? I don't know. Or it could just be an aesthetic. In the close-up, the only thing I could point out is H7H1 written on the front of the headlights, which I'm guessing is just one specific variant of headlights. And let's be honest, I'm sure there'll be hundreds in GTA 6. Now, as you'll observe here, we have yet another Gloriana plate. And I believe for the first time, we actually have multiple mechanics working at once. And if I haven't said already, this vehicle is the Camacho, as illustrated by the tag on the side. But what definitely caught my eye is all those paint splutters on the floor. Maybe when you change the paint job on your car, the sprayer leaves little bits of paint on the floor. Although on second thought, the website says the vehicles are hand painted, so I guess that's the answer. And if you want to know, this mod shop will be located in Lake Leonida. Next up on the left, we have what could be the same guy again. His face and his dimples look to be fairly similar, and based on the customization shown off so far, it might not be too far-fetched. However, the gun he's holding looks to be an MP9. Wait, hang on a minute. The guy on the right is most definitely the same character, as you'll notice the exact same jewellery in every bit of material. But it's crazy to see how the smartphone screen is completely white, as if this shot was captured in perfect sync with the flash. On the back wall too, it's pretty funny how it has PTT written on a gun. And drawn next to it is a bullet with your name written on it. Not quite literally you watching, but I'm assuming anyone who's an enemy of PTT youngins. Following on from that, you can see some beautiful rims on this vehicle called the Albany, which is based on the real-life 1967 Cadillac Eldorado. However, this level of customization is only possible in Rideout Customs, which allows you to, quote, transform vanilla vehicles into magnificent works of art. Exquisite rims as displayed here, and donk stylings. Of course, Rockstar's blessed us with a shot of the interior, and it reveals a super funky steering wheel, and it looks as though the handbrake lever has even been customized. It almost looks like Lucia's dress is the wrap for this car. Ultimately, it's clear to see this as a restored vehicle, because the leather seats are still slightly damaged and wrinkled, and they're not totally pristine. Therefore, this leads into the final shot, which kind of serves as a before and after. It's evident the bumper's hanging off, and the vehicle looks quite worse for wear. So overall, the transformation's pretty incredible. Furthermore, we can identify the vehicles on the jack, with the one on the left being the Willard faction, and the one on the right is the Vapid Stania. Swiftly moving on, it's clear Jason's finally fixed the leaks, but we get a nice view of his personal vehicles. Firstly, the Vapid Ganado, which was wrongly identified as Creado in the past. Displayed to the right of that is his military Dinka Enduro, but you can't forget the trusty kayak, which we'll see Jason using later on. Naturally, you may have noticed on the right, there's space to dock your boat, and I suppose at that point you can bin off the flipping kayak. Another very minor detail is that they changed some of the wires beneath the roof of the house, because it looks as though Jason's tidied them up. However, it's nice to see the little garden seating area out the front. Maybe we can enjoy some breakfast with Lucia as we watch the sunrise. But finally on the right, we can faintly make out the tall communications tower. And in my opinion, this is the same one from the Leonida Keys screenshot. Here you can see a close-up of Jason's bike. Clearly the seat's a little bit ripped, and the welding looks as though it's been done by Jason himself. And you'll see this detail again more clearly in a little bit. But at least the motorbike's on a kickstand, so the GTA 6 community got what they wanted after all. And before I forget, this is based on the Honda XL250. Leading on from that, we've got sexy man Jason in his board shorts, kayaking far out to sea, and this in-game brand Crest Kayaks is new to GTA 6. Additionally, it's apparent the seagull has been spooked by Jason's presence, and I'd say there's a bit of seaweed present on the right hand side. However, what's really exciting is this is showing us our first look of Key Lento, as illustrated on the left by the sign that says Key Lento Marina. So here we have Sarah's unisex salon. I'm not exactly sure why the S is so far away from the rest of the word, but there's gotta be a reason for it surely. Although just below that it details her services, like cuts, styling and blow drying, in addition to general styling. On top of that, on the left hand side there's an air conditioning unit, and I'm not exactly sure why the song Pumped Up Kicks comes to mind. The second screenshot brings us inside, featuring Jason rocking his earring and mullet. And I mean, just look how the light illuminates his strands of hair. And overall, the NPC variation is great, with the one on the right who I'm guessing Sarah, who's got a leopard print top. But I have to say I'm a fan of the floor decoration, as it really gives the vibe of a small locally run salon. However, for the first time ever in a GTA game, we can get our freaking nails done. I think I'll go for purple nails with a pink polka dot, please. Anyway, based on what we can see on the left hand side, there's going to be an incredible amount of variation here. But aside from that, there's not really much else going on. Displayed here is the Shih Tzu Squallow. Of course, this was featured in past GTA games, but you may not know that this is based on the C-Ray 210, and I've managed to identify where on the map this actually is, because on the right hand side you can just about see the sign for the Sahara Arena, which is on the left of this scene in trailer 1, with Lucia cruising down the road in this red car. On top of that, you can see what I'd call a starboard marker, which I'm supposing is there to guide you so you don't run aground. However, pay attention to that clump of towels on the front of the boat. But just before, we've got a quick side view of the Squallow, and the way that the sun's hitting it is producing a little rainbow effect. So based on this, it's hard to believe people were getting annoyed at the reflections and lighting in the previous website video. Despite that, on the right hand side we've got a cooler box, so potentially we can store fish in there that we've caught out at sea. And is that the Vassetti mansion on the right hand side? I think it's safe to say all our eyes went straight towards the dolphins. I mean, just look at his head and his little blowhole. Maybe we can feed them and pet them, and we can trap them in an enclosure and create our own little sea world, if that's not in the game already. On top of that, Jason's got a few bottles of E-Cola, but overall this gets me so excited for underwater exploration, man. Even the diving equipment's realistic, with a proper BCD or buoyancy control device, and the regulator, which of course has the right amount of frickin' hoses. It's even kitted out with a second mouthpiece in case of emergencies. Imagine that, you're doing a scuba dive and your mate runs out of air, and you gotta feed him that before you take him to the surface. Okay, maybe that's a bit too much, but I'm excited, alright? Next up, Jason and Lucia are being hunted by the Vice City police. Obviously, the thrust from the helicopters move in the water, but it is miraculous how those towels are hanging on for dear life. And just speculating based on what we can see here, I reckon the diving equipment is going to stay stationary on the boat. Therefore, there'll be a consistent animation when you walk up to it and use it. Now we have the stock 305 clothing store, which again is basically just Rockstar flexing about the customization. I bet you can even customize Lucia's eyeshadow, but what you probably didn't know is that this is located in Stockyard, which we've seen a little bit of already from trailer 1. You can see here, Jason looks exactly like Sonny Crockett out of Miami Vice. And beside him is a nice display featuring different coloured rattle cans, or spray cans. However, these are most definitely empty, and more aesthetic than functional, as I don't think you're supposed to store them horizontally. Another tiny Easter egg is that, as mentioned previously, the store is called Stock 305, and in real life the 305 area code is that for Miami and Florida, and it's the same code on the girl in the GTA 6 cover art. To be honest, there's not a whole lot to say about this one, apart from the funny mascot in the window, although I'm not entirely sure what it actually is. Lastly, you'll notice from this shot that we're back inside the store, and there's a few things to note here. Namely, on the right hand side it says "Say sorry, be Vice," which is just the GTA 6 version of Rockstar's slogan, which is "Say sorry, be nice," which is sort of ironic if you know what's going on in the background at the moment. Secondly, we got a nice little Illuminati sticker. And in the bottom left, it's apparent this could be Tails from Sonic. Although based on what's on his tail, he's now a drugged up skunk instead. Despite that, in this next shot we have the 1967 Vapid Dominator buggy, which is based off the off-road Ford Mustang, and I'd like to pull up the website description. A Mud Club monster offering impressive off-road handling for the backwoods of Mount Caliga and beyond. Again, Rockstar's teasing there's something beyond Mount Caliga. A second state, fingers crossed? Conveniently store it at the Paradise Garage in Watson Bay, which features a weapon locker plus a secure place to deposit stolen goods to be fenced. So realistically, this screenshot's been taken in the grass rivers close to Watson Bay. But oh my days, the mud looks incredibly realistic. Adding on to that, it does look like Wyman's behind the wheel. and it is likely based on the decal on the side of the vehicle. Now we will talk about Wyman in a little bit, but to finish off here, I think I can spot a crocodile in the grass on the right hand side. However, my personal favourite thing from this shot is the actual working windscreen wipers. Just imagine driving in first person and having to wipe the mud off your windshield. Moreover, there's even more added detail in the close-up. There's visible bits of rust around the edges, as well as visible sand sticking to the headlights. And just like I referenced earlier, there's an example of the welding lines here. I'm all for it, but in my opinion, stuff like this just doesn't need to be in the game. Again, another shot of the interior. I think you get the gist at this point, but the fuel gauge is pretty intriguing because we're still yet to see if we're going to have to refuel in GTA 6. So there's the garage in Watson Bay. It's pretty simple overall and there's not a ton to see here. However, that spare tyre has me curious. Is it possible to swap out punctured tyres in this new game? Personally, I think it would make a lot of sense to provide this functionality, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Wow, just wow. I'd argue this is one of the best of the 63 screenshots. We've got amazing particle physics, with smoke coming from the rear wheels. And what's mind-boggling to me is how the white painted line interacts with the terrain. It's not a perfect line, with some small gaps, and it's rough around the edges. It's just hyper realistic. And of course, with any shot of the sea, we've got a boat in the distance, and what I speculate to be the naval air station on the left hand side. Nevertheless, we can observe here another beautiful shot of Jason and Lucia, and I don't think Jason's ever going to ditch the wife beater. But besides that, he has actually changed his watch to a Croex, naturally the GTA parody of Rolex. However, you may not have noticed the tattoos. Lucia's reads Afortunada, which means fortunate or lucky in Spanish, and it's got a lucky horseshoe on it. Furthermore, Jason's reads Death Not Today, and I don't know if it's just me, but it looks as though their tattoos would fit together. In this back shot of Jason, it reveals what I'd say is the speeder from GTA 5. On top of that, I'd say the text reads NOLA, which is supposedly the acronym for New Orleans, Louisiana, which is quite interesting. But of course, take this with a pinch of salt. Obviously, with this close-up of Lucia, it's pretty difficult to place on the map unless we find this landmark. Not really anything else to note here. Again, it's easy to tell here, Jason's perched up on the balcony just above where the last two shots were taken, as indicated from those same benches in the top right corner. And if you know where this is on the map, let me know down below, although I'm sure the mapping community will have it sorted. Rockstar, you win, alright? You frickin' win, man. So frickin' hot, brother! You can even see the frickin' underwear. Hey, the Gooners are eating good today! Anyway, in this one, we've got a few lovely details. On the grip of Jason's Beretta, it says sua sponte, which again is Latin and means of one's own will or of its own accord. And this is actually the motto of the US Army Rangers, so it's linking back into his military past. Lucia's weapon looks to be a Glock, and it's a lighter polymer pistol, ideal for her. But by far the most fascinating detail is President Hardin on the $100 bill, who's on one of the cigarette cards in RDR2. And funnily enough, we also have President Waxman on another dollar bill in the screenshots. So don't be surprised if you see the other presidents on the dollar bills too. In this screenshot we have Wyman, who was present in the 2022 leaks. And the first weird observation is that the number on his vest is only one number different from the cash register in trailer 2. However, if we zoom in on the bottom left, it appears Wyman's sorting out a cam belt or timing belt. And if you've ever done one of these yourself, it's a pain in the ass by the way, you would have noticed all these numbers and also the arrows because it has to go on in the correct direction. Like, why is this in GTA 6, man? It's just incredible. I think that's the modified Stinger GT in the back too. But more importantly, we've got confirmations of tow trucks in the game. Moving on, and trust me, we're nearly there now. But first we got more cars. It is Grand Theft Auto after all. It's evident Rockstar's fixed the ray tracing from GTA 5 because the light reflects so perfectly off the door panels. If I had to place a bet, I'd say this is based on the 1970 Toyota Celica. I'm just going to run through the rest of these really quickly because they're all part of the classic car collection. Firstly, the brand Atomic is returning, inspired by the real world Michelin tyres. In this one, the Donald Duck sticker reads Duck Souped, and there's a spare tyre just visible in the back of the car. This is just a close-up of the earlier Stinger GT. America, America. This is most likely the Shister Deviant. Now let's end this with the vintage Vice City pack. And this is what you're getting if you can't afford the Ultimate Edition. Starting off as you might expect, just outside the Ocean View Hotel, which we've already had several angles of so far. However, to highlight the roots of Vice City, these outfits are heavily inspired again by Miami Vice and Scarface. Obviously, there we have the iconic Vapid Stania. Let's not forget that bird flying in the top right. And on the map, I'm pretty sure this is positioned on Fisher Island just opposite the port. Overall, with the volumetric clouds, the beautiful sunset, and the lifelike sand, this is just an amazing shot. This shot's pretty funny. It looks like Lucia's arm is about to snap in half. It does look though like Lucia's dress wasn't actually that hard to create. Personally, I find it looks exactly like her golden dress, but they've just changed it to red and altered the design a little bit. I believe they're dancing inside of Club Space as well, which is a real life nightclub in Miami, but we don't yet know the name for it in GTA 6. And we can get a better view of the club from this scene in trailer 1. Finally, I would love to point out the velvet texture on Jason's rolled up sleeve. Just looks incredibly realistic. We can see just a close-up of Lucia here, with slightly bloodshot eyes. Furthermore, we can even see different shades of brown in her iris. And just like in real life, they're varied in each eye and they're non-identical. Jason's holding a Mac 10 here, with the Tommy Vercetti skin that you get from the pre-order. But I wonder if you can change the fire rate on this weapon. And in fact, I'd expect you to be able to do it on loads of other weapons, based on the toggle on the side there. One of the only things we haven't highlighted so far is the nails, the fingernails. They look so natural, with light and dark bits. And they might even have their own reflections. Okay, final few now guys. You may have noticed Lucia's got some new nails. However, I don't know if she knows it, but she's dipping her curls into her drink. And the way she's holding her glass and the toothpick is ridiculously natural. And this is something Rockstar has actively been working on, as detailed in their patents. Not a huge amount stands out to me. In this screenshot, I feel like we have to mention the clear rimmed glasses. It actually distorts the eyebrows, and something that you probably missed is that Jason's pupils are a lot more dilated than Lucia's, most likely because there's more light. And this was already present in Red Dead Redemption 2, so it's no surprise if it's going to come back again. Now this is the classic Vice City vibe. Cruising down Ocean Drive with the fluorescent neon lights and the money in the bag. But I do wonder if this pose will actually happen during gameplay. Will Jason naturally wrap his arm around Lucia as they're driving? Again, here we got a close-up of Lucia and Jason, equipped with that trusty M92 Beretta. Not much more to add without repeating myself here. It's just some more shots of the car and its interior. But is this teasing that you can store weapons in your car? Anyway, that's it for this video. Make sure you subscribe if you made it to the end. And click this video here to watch more on GTA 6.